Some loves are born in silence, hidden behind loyalty and guilt, the kind that shouldn't exist, yet refuses to die. The evening sky burned crimson as Emma stood by the window, watching her husband laugh with his best friend in the garden. The two men had been inseparable since childhood. Michael, her husband, strong, confident, always in control. And Daniel, the quiet one, the one who rarely spoke, but whose eyes carried more stories than words ever could. To anyone else, it looked like a picture of friendship and happiness. But to Emma, it was a battlefield, a war between right and wrong, heart and duty, because the man her heart had chosen was not her husband, was Daniel. It hadn't started with love. In the beginning, it was just kindness. Daniel had always been around, helping her when Michael forgot anniversaries, listening when she needed to talk, smiling when she tried to hide her tears. He was the one who noticed the things Michael never did, when she skipped meals, when she stayed quiet too long, when her eyes dimmed under the weight of an unhappy marriage. One night it happened. Michael was away on a business trip, and Daniel stopped by to drop off some files. It was raining, the kind of rain that traps you inside and blurs the world outside. She made him coffee, they talked, and for the first time, the silence between them wasn't empty. It was heavy, filled with something unsaid but undeniable. When she laughed at one of his rare jokes, he looked at her, really looked at her, and she felt her heart tremble. That look wasn't friendship anymore. It was something forbidden, something that could ruin everything. She tried to look away, but his gaze held her. "You deserve to be happy, Emma," he said softly, almost whispering. Those words broke something inside her. Nobody had ever said that to her before, not with that kind of truth. Her throat tightened, and she turned away before he could see the tears in her eyes. When he left that night, she stood by the door long after his car disappeared into the rain. Her heart was racing, her hands shaking. She knew something had changed, something she couldn't take back. The next morning, she tried to forget. She told herself it was nothing, that she was a married woman, that Daniel was her husband's best friend. But every time she saw him, the guilt in his eyes mirrored her own. Sometimes, when Michael wasn't looking, she caught Daniel staring at her, not like a man looking at another man's wife, but like a man fighting every instinct to stay away from the woman he could never have. She didn't know it yet, but that single night had already set everything in motion. A betrayal that would shatter friendships, vows and hearts alike. The hardest part of loving someone you can't have is pretending you don't. Days turned into weeks, and Emma tried to bury her feelings beneath the routines of married life. Breakfasts with fake smiles, quiet dinners filled with silence, nights where Michael slept soundly beside her while her mind drifted elsewhere. She hated herself for it, for the way her thoughts betrayed her heart, for the way Daniel's name echoed in her chest when she least expected it. Daniel, too, had changed. He stopped coming over as often, made excuses to avoid the dinners, and kept his distance when Michael invited him to their home. But his absence was louder than his presence had ever been. Emma could feel it, the void he left behind. Every time she saw Michael laugh with him, every time Daniel looked away instead of meeting her eyes, it hurt more than she wanted to admit. One afternoon, she found herself alone at Michael's office party. Michael had stepped away for a meeting, leaving her among strangers and polite conversations. That's when she saw him, Daniel, standing across the hall, his usual calm demeanor masking the storm behind his eyes. Their gazes met for the first time in weeks. It was like the room vanished, the noise fading into silence. He started walking toward her, slow and unsure, as if fighting every step. When he finally stood before her, he didn't say anything. Neither did she. The air between them spoke louder than words ever could. "You've been avoiding me," she said quietly, breaking the fragile silence. He exhaled sharply. "I had to. It's the only way to stop this before it goes too far." Her heart ached at the honesty in his voice. And what if it's already too late? Daniel looked away, his jaw tightening. "I don't." But she couldn't stop. The words came out before she could think. "You think I don't feel it too? You think I haven't tried to fight it? Every day I tell myself to forget you, but then I see you." And he cut her off, his voice breaking. "You're my best friend's wife. Whatever this is, it can't happen." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Then tell me you don't feel it." He froze. His lips parted, but no words came. Silence said everything. Before either of them could speak again, Michael's voice echoed behind them. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere." Emma stepped back quickly, her heart pounding. Daniel forced a smile, hiding the chaos inside him. Michael slung an arm over Daniel's shoulder, laughing, completely unaware of the storm that brewed between them. That night, as Emma lay awake beside her husband, she replayed Daniel's silence in her mind. It haunted her more than any confession could, because silence was sometimes the loudest truth of all. Sometimes the heart doesn't ask for permission. It simply breaks the rules and pays the price later. Emma tried to convince herself that distance would heal everything. But love has a way of finding its own path, especially the kind you try hardest to deny. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when fate decided to test her resolve again. Michael had invited Daniel over for a small get-together. She wanted to say no, to pretend she wasn't home, but she couldn't. When Daniel walked in, her chest tightened. He looked tired, maybe from the same sleepless nights that haunted her. Their eyes met for a brief moment before he looked away, greeting Michael with a forced smile. The house filled with laughter, casual jokes, and clinking glasses. To anyone watching, they were just three friends enjoying the weekend. But under the surface, everything felt fragile, like a glass about to crack. As the evening stretched on, Michael received a sudden call from work and excused himself to take it outside. The moment he left the room, the air between Emma and Daniel shifted. Silence fell, heavy and charged. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered, unable to meet his gaze. "I didn't want to," he replied softly, his voice barely audible. But he insisted. She nodded, her fingers trembling around the glass she held. "Every time I see you, I feel like I'm betraying him." He stepped closer, his expression filled with conflict. "You're not the only one who feels that way." Her heart pounded as he stopped just a breath away. She could smell the faint scent of his cologne, the warmth of his presence, the tension crackling between them like electricity. "Daniel," she began, but the rest of her words dissolved into silence. He reached out slowly, hesitantly, his hand brushing hers. It was a touch so light it could have been a mistake, but it wasn't. She didn't pull away. For one suspended moment, they forgot everything. The vows, the rules, the consequences. And then the front door opened. Michael's voice carried through the hall. "Hey, you two, dinner's ready." They sprang apart instantly, guilt washing over them like cold water. Daniel turned away, his jaw clenched, while Emma's hands trembled uncontrollably. When Michael entered, smiling and oblivious, Daniel forced himself to act normal, laughing, helping set the table, pretending that nothing had happened. But Emma couldn't. Her heart raced, her breath uneven. She excused herself and went to the kitchen, gripping the counter to steady herself. She wanted to scream, to cry, to undo what she'd just felt, but she couldn't, because for the first time, she had tasted what real love felt like, and it terrified her. That night, Daniel left early, his goodbye quick and distant. Michael didn't notice. But as Emma watched him walk out the door, she knew something irreversible had begun, something neither of them would ever be able to stop. You can silence your voice, but never your heart. It always finds a way to whisper the truth you were afraid to hear. Days passed, but peace never returned to Emma's heart. Every sound, every scent, every quiet evening reminded her of Daniel. She tried to lose herself in routines, morning coffee with Michael, chores, the endless small talk of a perfect wife, but everything felt hollow. One night, as rain poured outside, she found herself unable to sleep. Michael was away on a business trip, and the house echoed with emptiness. She turned on a lamp and tried reading, but the words blurred. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Daniel. "Are you awake?" Her breath caught. Her thumb hovered over the screen for what felt like an eternity before she typed back, "Yes." Seconds later, another message came. "Can't stop thinking about you." Her heart skipped a beat. Should VA ignored it. Should VA turned off the phone, but she didn't. Something deep inside her refused to let go. "You shouldn't say that," she replied, though her hands trembled. "Then tell me to stop," came his answer. She stared at the glowing words on the screen. The rain grew heavier, tapping against the window like a heartbeat. Slowly she typed, "I can't." The doorbell rang. For a moment she froze. The world outside was dark, wet and silent, except for that one persistent sound. Her pulse quickened. She opened the door, and there he was. Daniel, soaked from the rain, eyes wild with emotion, as if fighting an invisible storm inside him. "Why are you here?" she whispered, though her voice trembled with something other than fear. "Because I can't stay away anymore," he said, his tone breaking. "I've tried. God knows I've tried. But every time I close my eyes, I see you." Her breath hitched. She took a step back, but he followed, closing the space between them. His gaze searched hers, desperate, pleading, alive. To Daniel. Before she could finish, he pulled her close, and their lips met a kiss born from pain, not passion. From loneliness, not lust. From every emotion they'd buried and tried to deny. The rain outside roared louder, as if the world itself was bearing witness to their sin. When they finally pulled apart, both were shaking from guilt, from desire, from the realization of what they'd done. "This can't happen again," she whispered, tears in her eyes. But even as she said it, they both knew it wasn't true. Something had broken, something they couldn't fix. Ow. Daniel brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Then tell me you don't love me," he said softly. Her silence was the answer he feared. Ow. And the confession he longed for. As he walked away into the storm, Emma collapsed to her knees, tears mixing with the echoes of the rain. Knew nothing would ever be the same again. Not her marriage, not her heart, not her fate. Every secret has a heartbeat, and the longer you hide it, the louder it gets. The morning after the storm, Emma stood in front of the mirror, her reflection a stranger she no longer recognized. Her eyes were swollen, her lips trembling, her heart heavy with the weight of 1,000 unspoken regrets. The kiss still burned on her skin, a memory she wanted to erase, yet couldn't. Michael came home later that evening, smiling, unaware of the storm that had already destroyed the calm of their marriage. He hugged her, asked how her week had been, kissed her forehead like nothing was wrong. She smiled back, mechanical, practiced, broken. But Daniel wasn't as good at pretending. At work, he avoided Michael as much as possible. Every shared meeting, every casual laugh between friends felt like a knife twisting deeper into his conscience. Michael noticed his distance. "Everything okay with you?" he asked one afternoon. "You've been off lately." Daniel forced a smile. "Just tired?" "Tired?" Michael chuckled. You're the most focused guy I know. Maybe you need a break. Come over for dinner tomorrow. Emma misses you." The words hit Daniel like a punch. He wanted to refuse, but saying no would raise suspicion, so he nodded, forcing a hollow grin. "Sure, tomorrow sounds good." That night, he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emma, the way she'd looked in the rain, the tears in her eyes, the way her voice trembled when she said, "This can't happen again." But the heart doesn't obey rules. It rebels in silence. Emma, too, spent the night restless. She replayed every moment, every word, every touch, and hated herself for wanting it again. When the doorbell rang the next evening, her heart skipped. She opened the door, and there he was again. Daniel. But this time, Michael was standing right beside her, smiling. Dinner was torture. The table felt smaller than ever, the air thicker. Every glance between Emma and Daniel was a silent war, between longing and guilt, between desire and denial. At one point, Michael left to answer a call, and silence filled the room. Emma whispered, "Why did you come?" "Because he asked me to," Daniel replied, his jaw tight, "because pretending is easier than running away." Her eyes glistened. "You can't keep doing this, I know," he said, "but I don't know how to stop." When Michael returned, their conversation froze like a photograph, perfect on the surface, shattered underneath. After dinner, as Daniel was leaving, he caught Emma's hand under the table just for a second. That brief touch sent a rush of memories through both of them. The rain, the kiss, the heartbreak. Later that night, Emma stood by the window, watching the city lights blur into tears. She realized she was trapped between loyalty and love, between what was right and what felt real. Somewhere deep inside, she wished someone would catch her secret, because carrying it alone was killing her slowly. Secrets don't stay buried, they wait for the perfect silence to scream. The following week, things began to change. Michael wasn't the same. His usual warmth had cooled, his laughter had dimmed. He started watching not openly, but with quiet calculation. Emma could feel it. Every question, every glance carried a weight she couldn't bear. "Everything okay?" she asked one morning as he drank his coffee, his eyes lost in thought. He looked up, smiled faintly. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? The lie stung, though she wasn't sure whose it was, his or hers. At work, Daniel felt the same shift. Michael's friendly tone now had an edge. Their conversations were shorter, stiffer. One afternoon, while reviewing some project files, Michael asked casually, "You've been spending a lot of time here lately, haven't you?" Daniel froze. "What do you mean?" Michael shrugged, just saying, "You're always around, even when you don't need to be." It was an innocent remark, almost. But Daniel could hear the unspoken question hiding behind it. His throat went dry. "Work keeps me busy," he managed to say. "Yeah," Michael replied softly, smiling in a way that didn't reach his eyes. "Work does that to all of us." That evening, Emma found herself pacing the living room, unable to calm her nerves. She hadn't seen Daniel in days, but his absence was somehow louder than his presence. She wanted to call him, to hear his voice, but she knew it would be dangerous. Michael came home late that night. His tie was loosened, his expression unreadable, poured himself a drink and sat across from her. "You and Daniel seem close," he said finally. Her heart stopped. "What?" He took a slow sip, eyes never leaving hers. "I mean, you two always get along. You talk a lot. You seem comfortable." Emma forced a smile. "He's your best friend, Michael. Of course we're close. He's like family, right?" Michael said quietly, nodding. "Like family?" The silence that followed was unbearable. Emma's hands trembled in her lap, her breath shallow. Michael set the glass down and stood. "I'm going to bed," he said simply, and walked away. But he didn't sleep that night. He stood by the window in the dark, watching the city lights flicker like dying stars, his mind replaying every moment, every dinner, every smile, every excuse. He wanted to believe she was innocent. He wanted to trust her. But somewhere deep down, a voice whispered that the truth was darker than he could imagine. Meanwhile, across town, Daniel sat in his car, parked on an empty street. He had been driving aimlessly for hours, unable to go home. Every thought of Emma tore him apart. Every second of silence felt like punishment. He wanted to run, to disappear, but the thought of never seeing her again was worse than guilt itself. The next day, Michael found something small, but enough to confirm his worst fear. Emma's scarf. The one she'd lost weeks ago, folded neatly in the back seat of Daniel's car. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The betrayal had already spoken for itself. The worst heartbreak ISNT when someone leaves, it's when you realize they were never truly yours to begin with. Michael sat in his car for hours that night. Emma's scarf clenched in his hand like a ghost of trust he could no longer believe in. The city lights outside blurred into nothingness as anger, sorrow, and disbelief fought for control inside him. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, to not believe what his heart was already whispering. When he finally walked into the house, Emma was setting the dinner table, unaware that the world she knew was about to crumble. "You didn't call," she said softly, turning with a smile. "I was worried. Where did you lose this?" He interrupted, his voice quiet, almost trembling. He held up the scarf. Her body froze. The color drained from her face. "Michael, I don't," he said sharply, his tone cutting like glass. "Just tell me where you lost it." She swallowed hard. I don't remember. Maybe at the cafe or in Daniel's car." The silence that followed was deafening. The clink of a spoon falling to the floor echoed like thunder. Her lips parted, but no sound came. The truth was already written in her eyes. Michael laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "God, I thought I was imagining things. The way you looked at him, the way he looked at you. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks. But it wasn't, was it?" Tears filled her eyes. "Michael, please don't say my name like that," he shouted, the anger finally breaking through. "You've betrayed me, both of you, my wife and my best friend." Emma stepped closer, trembling. "It wasn't supposed to happen. We never meant to hurt you." "Oh, so that makes it better," he said bitterly. "You never meant to? What, you just tripped and fell into each other's arms?" Her tears spilled freely now. I tried to stop it, Michael. I swear I did. But sometimes your heart doesn't listen to reason. He stared at her for a long, silent moment, then let out a broken laugh. My heart listened to you for years, Emma, and look where it got me. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. I gave up everything for you. My time, my dreams, my loyalty. And you gave it all to him. She reached for him, but he pulled back. Don't. Just don't. The doorbell rang. Neither of them moved, but the sound kept echoing through the hallway until Michael finally opened the door. Daniel stood there, his face pale, eyes hollow like a man already condemned. Michael, he started, his voice shaking. I need to talk to you. Michael stepped aside slowly, his expression unreadable. You already did, he said coldly, without words. The three of them stood in that room, husband, wife, best friend, with the silence of betrayal filling every corner. Get out, Michael whispered to Daniel. Daniel hesitated. Please, let me get out. His voice thundered through the house. Daniel took a step back, guilt breaking him apart. His eyes met Emma's one last time, full of pain, regret, and a love they could never have again. Then he turned and walked away into the darkness. Emma collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Michael didn't move. He just stood there, staring at the door that had just closed on the life he thought was perfect. For him, everything ended that night. For her, it was only beginning. Some loves aren't meant to last forever. They're meant to change us forever. 3 months had passed since that night, and the house no longer felt like home. Michael had moved into the guest room. The laughter, the warmth, the easy familiarity, all gone. Emma moved through the days like a ghost, trapped between guilt and grief. Every sound in the house echoed like a reminder of what she had destroyed. Sometimes, she'd find him sitting in the living room, staring at nothing. She'd want to speak, to apologize again, but his silence was a wall she couldn't climb. Daniel, meanwhile, had left the city. No one knew where he went. His office desk remained empty, his name erased from the company's projects. Rumors said he'd gone abroad, trying to start over, trying to forget. But forgetting wasn't as easy as distance. Every heartbeat still carried her name. One rainy evening, Emma stood by the window, watching droplets race down the glass. She thought about the night it all began, that first spark of forbidden emotion, that first moment when her heart had betrayed her vows. It wasn't lust or thrill that had ruined her. It was connection, raw, painful, undeniable. Michael walked in quietly behind her. His voice broke the silence. Do you still love him? Her breath caught. She turned slowly. No, she whispered, shaking her head. I don't love him anymore. I just missed the person I was before all this happened. He studied her face, the sorrow, the honesty, the exhaustion. You could have told me, he said softly. You wouldn't have believed me, she replied, her eyes glistening. No. You never noticed how lonely I was. His jaw tightened. So that makes it right. No, she said, stepping closer. Nothing makes it right. I broke your trust, and that's something I'll regret for the rest of my life. For the first time in months, he didn't turn away. He looked at her, really looked, and in her eyes, he saw not the woman who betrayed him, but the woman he once loved. Do you want me to leave? She asked quietly. He exhaled slowly, shaking his head. I don't know. Just know I can't go back to who I was. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Neither can I. The rain outside grew heavier. thunder rolling across the sky like an old memory refusing to fade.
I'll later.
Later that night, Michael packed a bag. He didn't say where he was going, and Emma didn't ask. As he reached the door, she whispered, "Will you ever forgive me?" He paused for a long moment before answering, "Maybe someday. But forgiveness isn't the same as love." Then he left quietly, without another word. Emma watched him disappear into the rain, her heart shattering one final time. There were no grand endings, no promises, no second chances, just silence. The kind that only follows when everything's been said and nothing can be undone. As days turned into weeks, she began rebuilding herself piece by piece. The pain didn't vanish, but it became part of her. A scar that would always remind her of the love that shouldn't have happened, yet changed her forever. Daniel, in another country, wrote a letter he never sent. It ended with 3 words: "I still remember." And Michael, miles away, stood on a pier, watching the sunset, realizing that sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's the only way to survive. Because love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about knowing when to let go.